In this episode of Home Theater Geeks, I answer a question from Greg Davis, who wants to know if he can improve the sound of his center channel speaker. So stick around.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Hey there, Scott Wilkinson here, the Home Theater Geek. In this episode, I answer a question from Greg Davis, who writes, I have a Yamaha TSR 7810 AV receiver and 6 speakers. The center speaker is a Polk Audio CS10. I have some hearing loss and benefit from listening to TV with my Apple AirPod Pros. My question is, I don't always want to use my AirPods. So would I benefit from getting a better center speaker, or would I be wasting my money? The current speaker sounds kind of dull to me, even after adjusting the speaker settings in the Yamaha menu. So it could be my hearing. Well, Greg, it could be your hearing. In fact, that's probably the most likely explanation, which I'll talk about in a little more detail here shortly. First, I want to mention that the Yamaha TSR 7810 AV receiver is a discontinued model, but it's a little on the high-end side, the high mid-range, should we say. It's sold for about $850. So that's getting up there, and it's got some nice features, which I'll talk about in a minute. The Polk CS10 center channel speaker is also discontinued, and it probably sold in under $200, so I don't think it was very expensive. I asked Greg in a follow-up email about his other speakers because I wanted to know what his whole system was, and he told me that he has Polk Monitor 60 Series 2 front, left, and right speakers, which are floor standers, nice floor standing speakers. He also has Paradigm Cinema 90 version 3 side and rear surrounds, which are bookshelf speakers, and a Paradigm Cinema 90 CT subwoofer. He also has a couple more Paradigm Cinema 90 version 3 speakers and a Paradigm Cinema 90 center channel, which he's not using. They came with the house along with the other Paradigm speakers that he has in his system. He notes that the Paradigms are pretty small. They're bookshelf speakers, as opposed to the floor standing speakers that are the Polks. But I have to say that having a complete Paradigm Cinema 90 system, including the fronts, center, surrounds, and sub, would undoubtedly have a very consistent tonal quality throughout the entire sound field, which is important for surround sound systems. But if you want to keep the Polks in the front, I don't blame you. They're probably better speakers. Certainly the front, left, and right are larger and probably have a better sound. And the Polk center, well, we'll get into that here in a second. I don't think a different center channel speaker will help you very much. Now, the Polk Monitor 60 left and right and the CS10 center are from different lines from Polk, product lines. So, it might improve the situation to get a center that's from the same line as your left and right speakers. I could find 2 on the Polk website, the Monitor Series CS1 Mark II, which is $129. It's probably an update to the one you already have. Or the Monitor XT30, which is $199, probably better. But I suspect the improvement would be minimal. Is it worth $200 to find out? Depends on what your circumstances are. Could be. I think hearing loss could well be your problem, depending on how severe it is and its exact profile. If it's loud sound induced, if you've exposed yourself to loud sounds over time, this is also called noise-induced hearing loss. The high mid-range in the 2 to 6 kilohertz range has probably been degraded. It's probably dropped, which would result in a dull sound. Now, if we take a look at this graphic that I'm showing you, you can see a typical audiogram, which is a measurement that the audiologist would take of your hearing. And you can see that the drop-off starts at around 2 kilohertz, gets worst at 4 kilohertz, down by 50 or 60 dB, which is quite a bit, and then comes back up somewhat by 8 kilohertz. Most audiologists don't measure above 8 kilohertz. As musicians and aficionados of high-quality audio, you might try to seek out an audiologist whose audiometer goes above 8 kilohertz. I have one, and her audiometer goes all the way to 20 kilohertz. So I know exactly what my profile is all the way up there. But most don't. They only measure up to 8 because that's where speech sounds are. And audiologists are most concerned with people understanding speech. The unfortunate thing is that noise-induced hearing loss, that notch between 2 and 6 or 8K, is exactly where the consonants of speech live. And so if you expose yourself to loud sounds for over a long period of time, say you go to a bunch of rock concerts, or like me, you sit in an orchestra or a big band for years and years with the trumpets right behind you, as I did in the trombone section of many big bands, that can cause that sort of hearing loss that you just saw. And that will cause sounds to be somewhat dull, I'm afraid to say, in addition to making it more difficult to understand speech, especially in loud environments like a restaurant or a bar. This is the tragedy of noise-induced hearing loss. So the specific adjustment that I would recommend, you say you've adjusted the speaker settings in the receiver, and that's good that you've experimented around with that. The specific adjustments I would recommend are trying to boost the frequencies in the 2 to 6 kilohertz range. And I know that the TSR 7810 has a parametric equalizer control manual for the speakers. And I would do that for the center speaker primarily, because that's where the speech is coming from in most programs. So now my question to you is, did you run in the receiver what's called the YPAO routine? This stands for Yamaha Parametric Room Acoustic Optimizer. The R is not in the initialism for some reason, but anyway, YPAO. It's Yamaha's proprietary room correction system. So you take the supplied microphone that came with the receiver, you set it in your listening position, and you hit go, and the receiver plays a series of tones and test signals on the speakers. And it automatically sets the level for each speaker, the delay, depending on how far it is from the microphone, and the EQ for a given position. In this case, you can even do a series of positions and make a multi-position measurement. We put a URL in the show notes that goes to a Yamaha page that explains more about YPAO. So what I would do, if you haven't already, is run the YPAO algorithm. Let it do its thing. listen to some sounds and see what they sound like. And then if it still sounds dull, go back into the menu system, go to the center speaker and manually boost the 2 to 6 or 2 to 8K range in an inverse, actually, of what that graph I showed you earlier shows you. So you've got a dip from 2K, goes down to the most loss at 4K, and then back up somewhat at 8K. Do that curve in reverse if you can in the parametric EQ and see if it helps. It might. If it doesn't, then I'm sorry to say there's not much else that can be done. I don't think spending a lot more money on a center speaker is going to do that much good, because the real problem is in your head. Not to cast any aspersions, but hearing loss is a tragedy. And if you have it, there's no getting it back. Which brings me to my final point. If you are a young person and you haven't yet been to a lot of rock concerts, and you haven't played in a bunch of rock bands or sat in the trombone section of a big band or sat in an orchestra, protect your hearing. Wear hearing protection, wear ear plugs, custom if you can. They're expensive to get them custom molded to your ears, like $200, $300, or good quality generic earplugs. Protect your hearing now, because later in life, you'll want your hearing. So there you go. I'm sure I was only of some help here. I'm sorry about that, and I'm sorry about your hearing loss, but give it a try. So if you have a question for me, sure would appreciate it if you would send it along to htg@twit.tv, and you can send it as a text, just a text in the email, or as an audio file or a video file, which we will play on the show if you send it along that way. Would love to get those. And as always, we thank you for your support of TWiT with your membership in Club TWiT, which lets you see the video of these podcasts. Of course, you can access them for free, audio only, and we sure do appreciate you listening. But if you want to see the video, you can sign up for Club TWiT. You can also come into the Discord channel under those conditions and watch us make the show live. So I do hope to see you soon. Until next time, geek out.